From the recall to prior knowledge, we're going to be looking at two main areas of concern that I noticed, and they both deal with fractions. So we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting fractions, and then we'll be looking at multiplying and dividing fractions. It's important to understand that when you add or subtract fractions, you need to have a common denominator. So if we had 2/3 plus 5/4, there are two ways that we could get a common denominator. One way to get the least common denominator is to list the multiples of both 3 and 4. So if we listed the multiples of 3 and 4, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and we'll stop there and I will try the 4s. We have 4, 8, 12. And what we should notice here is that our least common denominator is 12. Another way of getting a common denominator, this will not always give us the least common denominator, but it's always going to give us a common denominator, is to multiply denominators. 3 times 4 gives us 12. So we're going to rewrite this problem with a 12 on the bottom. Our denominator is going to be 12 in our answer, unless we could simplify at the end. Now what we look for, we want to see how many times does this 3 go into 12. And we know 3 goes into 12 4 times. So because 3 went into 12 4 times, we're going to multiply the top by 4 as well. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 4 goes into 12 3 times. 5 times 3 gives us 15. So this leaves us with 8 plus 15 on top and 12 on bottom. If we add 8 and 15 together, that would give us 23 over 12. Right now it is in simplest form, but we could change this into a mixed number. 12 goes into 23 one time, with 11 twelfths remaining. Now this may look a little different from what you're used to, but I'm going to show you it is the same exact thing that you may have done in the past. So if I had the 2/3 plus the 5/4, what you probably would have done was rewritten this as 8/12 plus 15/12. And when you add or subtract fractions, the denominator stays the same. So that's going to stay 12 on bottom. And you add the tops together, 8 and 15 gives you 23. So we end up with the same answer. It just looks a little different. So this method up top here, that kind of condenses the problem a little bit. We know the bottom's going to be 12. So we just put 12 on the bottom. And then we put our addition on top. For number 16, we had 7/8 minus 2/3. And we will rewrite this once we get our common denominator. And for this here, I know we have 8, 16, 24. 3 can't go into 8 or 16, but it does go into 24. So 24. That would be our common denominator. 8 goes into that 24 3 times. 7 times 3 gives us 21. Our operation was minus, so we're going to subtract there. And then we know 3 goes into 24 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. So for this problem, we're left with 21 minus 16 on top. And when we subtract that, that gives us 5/24, and that is simplified. And then for our last one, we have mixed numbers. We have 1 and 1/4 plus 3 and 2/5. We still need common denominators for this, and there's there's multiple methods to be used for this, but I'm going to go with the most common one for right now that I feel that you have all probably used. And I would say that we all probably have changed this into an improper fraction before we started. So we'll start by changing them into improper. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5, so that would be 5/4 plus 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17/5. Our common denominator between 4 and 5 is 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 5 would give us 25. And then 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 17 would give us 4 times 10 being 40, and 4 times 7 being 28. When you add 40 and 28, that gives us 68. Now we could add the tops. 20 and 60 is 80. 85 plus 8 gives us 93/20. We cannot reduce anything here, but we could change it to a mixed number. 20 goes into 93 4 times, with 13/20 remaining. The other method that we could use for improper fractions we could split up the numbers, and we could take 1 plus 3 plus 1/4 plus 2/5. And what we know right away, we know that 1 and 3 gives us 4. So we're left with 4, and then we want to add the 1/4 and 2/5 together. And our 1/4 and 2/5 would have a common denominator of 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. When we add 5 and 8 together, that gives us 13/20. So what we're left with here is 4 plus 13/20, which equals 4 and 13/20. So with this method here, if you split it up and add the integers first, or the mixed part of the fraction first, you're going to be dealing with smaller numbers or smaller fractions when you're adding.